Hello everybody and welcome back to Geeks and Gamers. This is Odin coming to you with another video, and today we're going to be talking about the box office for this weekend, and it's really a tale of two very different stories. So first, let's talk about the positive end of the box office, and that is Bohemian Rhapsody. Bohemian Rhapsody is estimated to make around $50 million for the weekend, which is just incredible. The range is from around $45 to $50 million, and that's just incredible for this movie, especially since a lot of times people forget that there was actually a lot of behind-the-scenes chaos going on because Bryan Singer, the director, was not showing up on set on certain occasions. In fact, he didn't even finish directing the film, even though he's given the sole directing credit. He actually didn't finish the film as a director because of all this chaos going on behind the scenes, and yet even so, it was able to produce, and the actors and everyone else working on set was able to come together and make a great film. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but it's getting rave reviews from audience members. Now, the critic rating, on the other hand, is very low, and once again, it's not too surprising seeing that the critics, it depends on, what day of the week it is, depending on, whether they're going to give a movie a positive review or negative review. And I wouldn't be surprised if, because this is what I've been hearing from the movie itself, is that it doesn't really go much into his background. It really does not focus so much on him being a homosexual. It focuses more on his on-stage persona. It focuses more on the music, focuses more on his character in that way, which is what most people want to see. Most people want to be able to have a good time at the theater. This is something that we talk about constantly on this channel. People do not want to be preached to. People do not want to have a political message shoved down their throat. They want to have a good time. They want to have fun. And from what I've heard, these are shot-for-shot remakes of some of the biggest concerts that Freddie Mercury did, and that the whole band Queen did as well, and also goes into kind of where Queen came from and how it developed over time, how the songs came together. But that's what people want to see. People love Queen. Why? Because of the music. Most people don't care about his background. Most people say, his private life is his private life. Let it remain his private life. More people care about, oh, I wonder how the music came together. Oh, I'm interested to see where they came up with the concept of all these different songs and all of this different, really groundbreaking material. Really groundbreaking music. So it looks like that performs. I mean, again, audience rating is around 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is extremely high, but it really does go to show you that audiences are loving this film, and the box office represents that. And once again, we see this divide. Just because critics like or dislike a movie does not bear any merit on the box office overall. In fact, you could say that when it's a lower independent film that has a high critic rating, that does not help the film really at all. It might help it when you get to some of the older generations saying, oh, well, Rotten Tomatoes, there's a 96%, and I am going to go see that this weekend. Like, that's the only time that it's really ever going to affect box office numbers in any real way. There's a lot of times people say, oh, well, the low Rotten Tomatoes number affected, Batman v Superman, and affected Justice League. Well, that would require the vast majority of audiences to take Rotten Tomatoes for its word, which, again, most general audiences don't. Most general audiences go to the theater maybe a few times a year, they see a few trailers, and then they say, oh, this looks interesting, or oh, this doesn't look interesting. And most of that is stemmed from not Rotten Tomatoes critic scores, but rather from word of mouth. And those films that I just mentioned had very bad word of mouth because they were not very well done films. Bohemian Rhapsody, very good word of mouth. This is a film that's going to make a ton of money. Again, when we look to the actual cost of the film itself, it was very small in comparison to another film on our list, which is that of The Nutcracker. So The Nutcracker is on pace to be one of the worst Disney openings of all time. I think the only thing it's behind now at this point is one of the Alice in Wonderlands. I think Alice Through the Looking Glass might have been the worst one, and it really isn't surprising. This is a Nutcracker, a Christmas movie essentially, coming out in November. So I think that one of the things that really held it back from making any money at all was the time it came out. I mean, I'm sorry, no one is ready to see a Christmas movie in November. We haven't even gotten to Thanksgiving yet, and I think that definitely hurt it. But also, too, when you see all the trailers for it, the trailers, the music's great because, of course, it has that traditional music from the Nutcracker. But at the same time, there's just something about it where you're like, okay, now it just seems like Disney is at this point. I really feel a lot of people feel this way. Disney is at that point where they are trying to put any and everything out there to make money. They don't care about putting a quality product out there. They care more about trying to put anything out there, anything that has the Disney property, anything that can be rebooted, anything that can be turned from an animated to a live action. That's what you see constantly them doing. They're not really making original films anymore. Really the only place where you see originality anymore is in the Pixar, Disney, compilations, because we do still have some really good stories, which is the reason why I very much support what is going on with that. I really do support the Pixar movies. You know, that's why I'm not doing a full boycott of Disney, even though I feel like I understand why anyone would want to fully boycott Disney. But it's because of those movies, it's because of the Pixar ones that I'm not quite there yet. I'm not quite ready to fully, disavow myself of anything that's all Disney. But things like this definitely add to it. So the Nutcracker is not set to make a lot of money at all. So Bohemian Rhapsody, again, looks like it's going to make 72 million. So it made 72 million from its global start. So basically around 122.5 million in its opening weekend. That's very good, meaning that this film is essentially already profitable and will be profitable by the end of its run. It's going to make a pretty decent amount of money. In fact, it's the second best start for a music biopic, following Straight Outta Compton. Straight Outta Compton, of course, being a movie that, especially in America, would have done very, very well. Bohemian Rhapsody also, as you can see, doing well in America, doing a little bit better probably overseas, but overall we can understand why the audiences in America would be much more likely to go see Straight Outta Compton, especially since it came out during a year where there was a lot of political unrest. There still is political unrest, which is why it would actually probably do even better in today's current political climate, but still, it makes sense nonetheless. However, we need to look to the other film, which is Disney's The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, which to me is just kind of an odd name. Like, just call it The Nutcracker, because then I think it's going to have a little bit more name recognition. You're going to have more people going, assuming that it's going to be the traditional Nutcracker, and then they might be disappointed when they realize, oh, it's not. But when you call it Nutcracker in the Four Realms, people think, oh, that sounds like a cash grab to me. Because that's what it's like. Every time I saw that, and every time I saw a trailer for it, I'm like, okay, this is a cash grab that Disney's trying once again. They love to do this, especially with kids' movies. You notice that they do this a lot with kids' movies. You saw that with Alice Through the Looking Glass, for example. They didn't want to tell a good story. They didn't want to expand upon the Alice universe. Instead, they just wanted to bank on kids saying, oh, look, this is a cool CGI world, and oh my goodness. And it's just not happening. Not to mention, when you had Keira Knightley giving her performance, oh no, I'm the Sugar Plum Fairy, and I talk like this. It's like, I don't know if I'd want to hear that for about half an hour, 45 minutes. And also, you know what? I think if anyone deserves this terrible box office, it's Keira Knightley. After she came out recently with all the stupid nonsense about, oh no, Disney princesses, no, 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 and I'm not. It's like, she says all this stuff about Disney princesses and how it's terrible role models for women, even though if you actually look to them, there's actually some very good role models for women in a lot of these Disney films. And also the mindset of, oh, what is it teaching our young men? They could just go kiss a woman and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, it's like, stop, stop, you're ruining everything. So I have to say, I'm not happy that anyone else was affected by this, any of the other actors involved, because overall I like the cast of this film. But I will say there is a slight bit of happiness that comes from me knowing that her film in its opening weekend did awful. It had and made $20 million, and that is over 3,766 venues. So over 3,000, almost 4,000 theaters, and it only made $20 million, and it cost $125 million to make this movie. This is another reason why I think Star Wars is going to lose money, because if it took $125 million to make this movie, imagine how much it's going to actually cost to make Episode 9. You're looking at $200 to $250 million, and then you have to add on marketing. Let's take this film, for example, $125 million price tag. Again, about half of that is about $60 million or so, which means that this film overall took about $185 to $190 million, because there was a huge marketing campaign, so it took about almost $200 million to make this film, which means that it has to make a crap ton of money in order to make its money back, because remember, it only gets 60% of the total box office. The fact that it only made $20 million, and keep this in mind, movies make roughly 60 to 70% of their entire box office gross in the first 2 weeks. And movies usually have a drop-off. So if it only made $20 million this weekend, you're looking at close to probably a $10 million, so maybe 50% drop for next weekend. So you're looking at making only maybe $10 million next weekend, which means this film is going to be a major flop. Already, I can make a pretty solid prediction that this is going to be a major flop for Disney. Now, of course, there's some people say, oh, but the Blu-ray, DVD sales will be fine. I don't really think so. I don't think so. I think that a lot of people are going to look at this and say, no, I don't really want to see this. I don't need to see this. There's a lot of other really great Christmas movies that I can watch other than this one. But guys, what are y'all's thoughts on this? Do you plan on going to see the Nutcracker in the Four Realms? I have no intention to see it, and that's not just because of Keira Knightley and her nonsense. It just doesn't look interesting to me. It really just doesn't. I mean, I love Morgan Freeman. I love all the other members of the cast. It's just not interesting to me at all. And the fact that Keira Knightley's in it and that it's doing terrible is just, you know, making me that, you know, just a little bit more happy. I cannot wait to see Bohemian Rhapsody, though. I mean, this is a film that, you know, the first trailer I was not really hyped on. Second trailer came out, and I was like, okay, it's getting a little bit better. And now that I'm hearing all these rave reviews from audiences, I'm very excited to see this film. But guys, let me know your thoughts about these films in the comments below. And also, let me know if there's any movies that you want me to look into. Maybe if you want me to return to see just how bad The Nutcracker does, to see how it, you know, compares to all the other Disney films and all their other major releases. Again, I think at this point, it is fighting tooth and nail for one of the worst openings from a Disney movie of all time, and I think the only one it's competing with at this point is Alice and Alice in Wonderland, or rather Alice through the Looking Glass, which was another film that did very, very poorly. But I would love to hear your thoughts, guys. So if you like this video, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. We're putting out great content every single day. You are all amazing, beautiful people. Have a great day, and as always, God bless.